Hey, welcome back to Killing Time. This is the show that searches for entertainment that does not suck. My name is Ayaz Akhtar, and with me, as always, is Just Bob, man with no nicknames.
Wait, no nicknames? Is that new? Did we kill them all?
Or did I just add another one? Huh?
Oh, man with no nicknames.
There
I
you
see
go,
what you did
man
there.
with no
See what you did there.
nicknames. Number
Very nice.
4,937. Number of nicknames. Anyway, so on this show, we search for entertainment that doesn't suck, and that requires us to go out to theaters and handle other people and watch movies and sometimes watch television shows, read books. I've done that too. You ever read one of those things?
Yeah, and we've talked about it a few times. It's not one of our favorite forms of entertainment, but we do once in a while.
Did you get to watch the Fahrenheit 451 movie on HBO?
I did not. Did you?
I did watch it, and I've only read the first half of the book. The book's better. So
Yes. The book was... I remember the book being excellent. It's actually one of the few of those classics I read in high school that I actually did enjoy reading.
Okay, so we're not going to touch upon Fahrenheit 451 much longer because it's very, very difficult to say. But if you're going to watch it, watch it. Just don't think that the movie you're going to see bears a resemblance
To the book.
Yeah, it's not like it is an adaptation in some respects, or like this is the source material, but it kind of veers off into a modernization, which is understandable, but also I think
Takes something away from it, right?
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the most disappointing things, and I don't want to stay on this too long, is the lack of the Hound. I wanted to see the Hound, but anyway.
It's kind of a big part.
Yeah, I thought so, but anyway, what do I know? I mean, I only read the first half of the book, so maybe things have changed. So anyway, today we're going to cover, without spoilers, Incredibles 2 and Hereditary. Hereditary is a horror movie, which I just watched, and it's been out for a little bit, and it's, as you can tell, it's like a family horror movie. Some people are comparing this to The Exorcist. There's been a lot of comparisons to great horror movies, also just terrible horror movies, because it's got some crazy ratings going on at the same time. Early critics' reviews were super thrilled about it, but it seems like audiences aren't quite getting it. What do you think this movie's about? Based on
From what
your
I've
experience?
heard of it, especially with the critics' ratings, it's all over the place. And that's what some of the critics like and some don't.
See,
and that's
I don't think
that's
it
not
is.
how...
No.
Yeah, but that's what I've read about it. You know, and they said you can't... I don't know. I think the critics who don't like it were expecting something more traditional, and maybe that's the problem.
Okay, so in the tomato meter, and we have
Yeah.
no business with these people, so like
Nope.
91% of the critics liked it. 58% of the audience liked it. Now, I saw this movie, and I freaking loved it. Now, the reason for this is, without spoiling much or anything, it doesn't go the way you think it'll go. And
So it surprised you.
yeah, and I thought it was a really gutsy movie. Now the movie's about this family, and they're running into issues, and they've got a weirdness going on in their lives. And you've seen the trailers. You know there's something weird going on, and
Yeah.
that's enough of the movie to be explained because I don't want to give anything away. It is there's no cheap scares. You know, it's very psychological. It's really smart, and it doesn't follow the ordinary rules of a horror movie. And I think that's what makes it stand out. So either that confuses people because they're like, well, how come this didn't happen? It's like, well, that's not where they wanted to go with this.
So that explains why there's the disparity in the score.
I
The
think so.
58% of audiences, it's because a lot of people want that, regular horror movie that they can follow along and know what's coming and what they expect. Whereas the people who liked it really liked the new aspect of it.
Yeah, that's the thing, because we've seen the formulas before. You build these false bad guys. You have these big jump scares. You got all these just tropes, these same normal things. So this is the weird kid. The weird kid's going to be the bad guy, or nobody's going to be able to tell. It's like, well, yeah, that could happen in any movie, but this one doesn't choose to do that. So I really thought it was well made and can screw up your head a little bit, which I thought was great.
How was the acting?
Fantastic. Everybody in the film was fantastic. Some of the effects are really good. The story's good. I guess I don't know if I'm part of the snob group of the 91% that really enjoyed it, but I didn't see anybody in the Alamo Drafthouse when we went there be disappointed by the movie. So maybe it's a different tier of thing. It's definitely not a mainstream horror movie. I could say that. Like, it's not something where you go and you're like, oh, this is going to be
Is it
Halloween.
intellectual? Do you need to?
No.
Or no? Okay.
No. You got to have patience.
Patience. Okay.
Yeah, you got to have patience. If you don't have patience, you're not going to like this movie. You're going to be like, okay, like, watch The Exorcist. Nothing happens for like the first like 90 minutes of the movie, it feels like. It's like, is this movie that good? And you're like, oh, yes, it is. Holy
and then
crap.
it hits you like a ton of bricks.
Never going that way. So that's our micro review with no spoilers for Hereditary, which is out now in theaters. But coming up tomorrow, probably by the time this thing is out, this video is out, Incredibles 2 is out. And I've taken it that you've seen the trailers.
I have seen the trailers, and I was a huge fan of Incredibles 1. In fact, it was my favorite Pixar movie at the time.
Okay, so I saw this on Monday, and the reviews are already out, and I believe it's already certified fresh, and Pixar is doing some great stuff here. If you liked Incredibles, the first one, you'll like the second one.
Okay, so it's more the same?
More the same in a good way. It's a continuation of the story. I think that's pretty obvious from all of the trailer footage that it's picking up right after the first one. And so you have these adjusted roles. So I'm not giving away anything that's not in the trailer. You see that Bob's at home and Elastigirl is out in public as a hero. And they do an amazing job with the stories. I will say there were some elements which were predictable, but that it's also, if you watch enough movies, you kind of know what's going on. There's some foreshadowing that's really, really obvious at times. But that's not to say it's a bad movie at all. It's a really solid Pixar film. It looks beautiful. The advances in the animation are ridiculous. Like when you see the back of like Elastigirl and she's doing anything, you're like, that's a real person. And then they go back and you see the big cartoony face. Very, very amazing lighting, and just everything just looks beautiful. The textures are great. That same kind of thing. And you're seeing some of the action scenes here. The action, after how many Marvel movies? Like 20 of them now at this point, and we've seen tons of these superhero things. Freaking super inventive action. Just really interesting understandings of how these people work and how they use their powers. And I was just really surprised by how innovative some of these ideas were. And I haven't seen some of this stuff in a movie. I might have seen it like in a comic book, some of these ideas of how to use your powers, but very different stuff. So very exciting to watch. And the action scenes didn't drag on too long. Sometimes you have those scenes like in Solo where it's like, okay, it's been like 40 minutes.
Yeah,
all right,
exactly. Okay, I'm done with this chase scene.
Yeah, and it's very, very impressive.
Now, let me ask you, since the first one came out, obviously superheroes have pretty much taken over media and taken over entertainment. Do you think that affected the story at all, or did they pretty much stay with probably what they had written out right after they finished the first one?
I'm going to answer that question right after we thank our patrons.
Okay.
We have a new member of our video credit squad. We got Radford Castro. Thank you for joining us and helping us out with the show. Radford and I go way back, so thanks for upping your pledge. Radford,
thank you.
And to Joe, Michelle, Paul, and Alan, who have been there at this tier for such a long time, thank you for still being there. You guys are excellent. Very happy to have a new person on this list. So very excited. So thanks for making this show happen. Quite literally, because without you guys, it's super. It's fun to do the show, but sometimes you're like, is anybody watching? You guys are watching, so thank you for watching the show or supporting it. I mean, so if you're thinking about joining, go ahead, go to patreon.com/IAZ. If you like this show and you're on YouTube, you can hit the like button, hit subscribe. Any of those things help us. So that'd be great if you wanted to join this list too. So hooray for progress and hooray for you guys. You guys are awesome patrons. So back to your question, did current movies influence this? Possibly. I will say that maybe they wouldn't do. I mean, that train scene looks familiar. Looks like a lot of other things. So maybe you've seen that, like what, Captain America. You've seen it in Solo. You've seen it in lots and lots of different movies. I don't think the heroics part of this isn't front and center. It's a family movie. It's flat out. It's about this family, and they're adjusting. And yes, there's the same issues as the first movie of we are dealing with the government, and they don't want supers around, and they got to deal with this oppressive society. So I don't think it would have been any different. Maybe some of the action scenes would have been slightly different, but that's about it. Because I think the story's it's got heart, and it's pretty tight. There was really no reason to change a lot of things. But because we've been introduced to this world, we get a more expanded idea. Now, maybe that helps, because there's a lot of characters in this movie, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe Disney knows that, oh, yeah, you guys can track more than 4 characters at a time. Also, we don't need to be introduced to the Incredibles anymore because we know who they are. So there's this ability. That just might be for a sequel. Maybe it's not lessons learned from other superhero movies, but it definitely has great comedy as well. It's another fun thing. Great balance. It's Pixar, right? They keep doing a good job with this.
Always, yeah.
And they waited only 14 years to give us this. So I mean, it's.
But the nice thing about animated features is you don't have to worry about the actors aging too much, how they're looking, de-aging them, CGI, because you can make them look like it's the next day.
Yeah, that definitely is helpful. Their voices haven't changed much at all. It's Holly Hunter and Craig T. Nelson still great together. The kids are great.
It's great.
Yeah. So, thankfully, we've seen some really crappy superhero stuff lately. It's the 5-year anniversary of the DCEU.
Yeah.
Happy anniversary, DCEU. With that, is there anything?
Let me ask one question. If I'm going to go see one of these movies this weekend, which one should I see?
It depends. Are you bringing a child with you? If you bring a child with you, do not go to Hereditary.
Of course.
Whatever you do not go to Hereditary if you have a child.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you can have a child, but if that child is of the right mental age or of age, bring them along. But if you had to pick one, that's a tough
one. So they're both really good, so it's hard to choose.
Well, see, I'm probably going to see these movies again this weekend. So I'm going to start it with Hereditary because I'm going to have my son the next day. So if I was going to tell you to pick one, probably go see Hereditary because I don't think that's going to be in theaters very long compared to The Incredibles.
Okay.
Incredibles 2 will probably be in a nice long run. Hereditary is probably going to be like 4 weeks and then it's gone. And then you're like, what happened to this movie? But then again, I don't think you need to see this movie. You don't need to see Hereditary in a big screen. You can watch this on your phone.
But Incredibles would be good in a big screen.
It's going to look good.
Yeah, because
it's beautiful and vibrant, and arguably you might want to see Hereditary that way too, because it's also dark, and maybe you want to see.
I'll go with how I feel when I walk into the theater.
It's like if you're feeling like seeing some. If you want to see look, they're both about families, okay?
Yeah.
So that's just how are you feeling that day? You feeling a dark mood, and you're like, you know what? Families can be taxing. You go to Hereditary, or you go, you know what? Families can be taxing. I want to see a family get along. Well, actually, they both get along kind of the same. So it's basically the same movie is what I'm saying. Okay?
Okay.
That's the same movie. So flip a coin on the day.
So I'll flip a coin. Yeah, that day. Heads Hereditary, tails, we'll go see Incredibles.
Yeah, so thanks to everybody for watching the show. This is available as a podcast over at killingtime.tv. So if you want to watch this without any of those like YouTube banner ads or any of that stuff, you could do that. It's available audio. You can listen just to us. So you don't get to have the awesome B-roll of me playing trailers. And by the way, Warner Brothers, really sick of your takedown notices. It's your freaking trailers for The Flash. Knock it off. Yeah. And thank you, Walt Disney, for being super cool constantly, for never, ever giving us one of these takedown notices. Anyway, if you want to get the episodes, regardless of what YouTube does to our videos, go to killingtime.tv and get the podcast right there. It's a totally different experience, and you don't have to hit any subscribe buttons there either, but you got to say that stuff for YouTube. Anyway, it does it for us. We'll have new episodes whenever. So if you actually are on YouTube, hit subscribe, and you'll find out when we actually do episodes, and that'll be very helpful. So that's all of that junk. I will see everybody. I'll see you. I see Rob.
Yeah.
Where is he? This way? That way?
Yeah.
We'll see everybody later.
Bye-bye.